My sister's new husband started to flirt with me, which made me super uncomfortable, but when I confided in my family, they confessed this was all just a test. My sister recently got married. It's been about 3 to 4 months. I haven't seen much of them since the wedding, honeymoon and then back to work. Once a month, our family gets together, and my parents host a huge feast. The most recent dinner took place a week ago. During this dinner, my brother-in-law acted extremely strange towards me. He complimented my body, ignored my sister, and just behaved in a very odd way. It was completely unexpected for several reasons. First, his wife was sitting right next to me. Second, he's only been married a few months. And third, he's never spoken to or about me like that before. I felt really uncomfortable, and I'm sure the tension was noticeable to everyone else, because, seriously, what was that? But what was even weirder was that no one seemed to acknowledge it. I was extremely confused and just wanted to leave. I ended up leaving early, but when I got home, I felt so icky. I don't even know how to describe it. I decided to message my sister and let her know that her husband's behavior made me uncomfortable. I told her it was also concerning that he felt comfortable saying these things in front of my parents and brother. I explained that if she didn't feel comfortable being in the middle, I wouldn't mind addressing it with him myself. His behavior was so unnerving that I FaceTimed my boyfriend, who was away for work in the US. I told him how strange it was that my brother-in-law's behavior towards me had shifted from sibling-like to something horribly uncomfortable. He was understandably pissed. My sister didn't respond to my texts until the next day. She asked to meet up, so we did. I expected her to be upset and to have her husband apologize for his inappropriate comments. Instead, she admitted it was all a test, and that I had passed. I was confused, to say the least. What did she mean by a test? Passed? What was going on? Turns out, she had her husband act that way on purpose to see how I would react if he had actually meant those things. My reaction, and the fact that I messaged her afterward, apparently proved to her that I could be trusted around him. I was deeply offended. Why would she think I couldn't be trusted? Well, let me explain her reason, which I don't believe to be valid. My sister has been married before. She was 27, and the divorce happened about 10 months into the marriage. Her ex was a psycho, to say the least. He had known me longer than he knew my sister. I was actually the one who introduced them. They got along well and eventually started dating. It seemed like the healthiest, most romantic relationship on earth, until they got married. During their marriage, I was staying with them because it was a closer commute to work. They had extra bedrooms, and I paid rent, cooked, and cleaned for myself. However, my underwear, bras and pants, started going missing. It began small, and I assumed it got mixed up with my sister's laundry and would turn up eventually. But it kept happening, and I found myself buying underwear almost weekly. I kept accusing my sister of taking it, but she was adamant it wasn't her. I decided to ignore it and move on. Something I hadn't even considered turned out to be the real reason. My former bro-in-law was stealing my underwear. I don't know, nor did I want to know, what he was doing with it. But when I found out, I was disgusted and confused. Someone I thought was my friend turned out to be a creep. He admitted he had never really loved my sister and was only using her to get to me. I was beyond creeped out and pressed charges against him for his disgusting behavior. I was able to get a restraining order, and my sister divorced him almost immediately after finding out. She took something traumatic that happened to me and twisted it to make it seem like I was the one who couldn't be trusted. She claimed I must have led him on for him to think that way, and this recent test was to prove I wasn't doing it again. Needless to say, I was extremely hurt and angry. I told her not to speak to or contact me again if that's how she really felt about me. My family found out, and most agreed her behavior was crazy. But my mother stood by her, saying my sister was just trying to protect herself from being hurt again. I told her if my sister had just been honest with me from the start, I wouldn't have been as upset. There's a right way and a wrong way to handle things, and this was not just wrong, it was also crazy. Why is my sister so convinced that my life goal is to hurt her? I didn't know her ex was going to turn out like that, so why am I being punished? She claimed I should have known he liked me, but he really made it seem like he was head over heels for my sister. How was I supposed to know what was going on in his mind? Anyway, the family dinner for this month was held early to accommodate everyone's schedules, yesterday. I told my parents I wouldn't show up if my sister and my bro-in-law were going. It wasn't that I refused to ever speak to her again, the situation was just so fresh. I told my mother I would apologize once I cooled down a bit, but it was hard to face them when they made me feel like a horrible person over something out of my control. My mother assured me my sister wouldn't attend, so I agreed to go. But when I arrived, they were both there. It felt like an ambush, and, in a way, it was. My sister demanded I apologize for my reaction, saying it was my fault the whole thing happened in the first place. I can't lie, I snapped. I told her to remove my number and stop calling herself my sister if she really felt that way. Now, I just need advice because my therapy session isn't scheduled for another 2 weeks, and I feel like I've lived through a soap opera. I do understand my sister had her trust broken by her ex, and I feel bad for that. But I believe that distrust shouldn't be aimed at me, it should be at the person who actually hurt her. And I already feel guilty for introducing her to that man in the first place. However, I don't see how her schemes to manipulate me into thinking she's being wronged by another husband again are justified, it's just too extreme. I want to apologize to her for one reason, for ever introducing her to that man. I really need her to understand that I wasn't trying anything when her ex was stealing my underwear. I was just as in the dark as she was. How do I go about doing this? I want to put this behind me and move on. I was just starting to heal from her first marriage, and now this situation is putting me in an uncomfortable position again with her, my brother-in-law, and even my own mother. Any advice on how to apologize, regain my sister's trust, and show her that I truly just want the best for her? Relevant comment. You have nothing to apologize for. Stop accepting the blame for something you had no part in other than being the victim. Your sister's ex was stalking you and she was caught in the crossfire. Then all this crap with her new husband, you have nothing to apologize for there either. Honestly, your sister and your mom are crazy, they're blaming you for the fact that your sister came into contact with a crazy person stalking you and fell for him. Then to absolve her of all the blame for not realizing what was going on, it's become all your fault? Do not apologize, do not make compromises with them, your sister is a horrible, disrespectful boss and I would cut all contact with her until she makes some kind of apology and contrition. You are being painted as the bad guy because something bad happened to you. Personally, I would remove myself from both their lives until they either see the light or they would not see me again. You don't need your sister's trust back, she literally played you with some weird fake-ass test to prove you were honest, when you had never been dishonest in the first place. Screw those people. Get angry, you are being disrespected in this as much as you were disrespected by that horrible prick she married. The fact that the other two went along with this paints them as being as bad as she is. I could not sit in a room with these 3 awful damn simulacrums of human beings for a moment without some major apologizing and ass-kissing, and even then I would most likely never be able to speak civilly to them again. Update 1. A lot has happened in the last couple of days. I've tried to read all the comments and taken everyone's advice. Here's what's happened. I lost a sister and a mother in 2 days. It's heartbreaking, more than anything. I had to meet up with my family, and my boyfriend came with me for support during the conversation. Honestly, it was hard to even look at them after the way they treated me. I'm so thankful to everyone who opened my eyes to the craziness of this situation. In front of everyone, my mother admitted that she had known about the plan from the start. My sister confided in her, and she agreed it was a good idea. She supported her son-in-law in harassing me, her own daughter. I'm in complete shock, and it just hurts so much to know that my mother would condone this, especially since she knew how much I was affected by my sister's first husband. She knew I was struggling in therapy. It took me a long time to trust people again after that, and now I feel like my trust has been broken again. I don't know how I'm ever going to trust anyone after this. I'm really thankful my boyfriend was there to comfort me because it was so hard to keep my composure around them. My sister wasn't budging at all. She kept insisting that she was in the right. She said the only reason I wouldn't apologize is that, deep down, I knew what her ex was like. She claimed I enjoyed the attention from him, even knowing he was married to her. She also said I overreacted, and that if it was just acting, it wasn't harassment. I told her not to expect any calls or texts from me until I received the apology I deserve from both her and my brother-in-law. As for him, he stayed mostly silent. Probably because my father threatened him if he said anything bad about me. He did say the only reason he went along with the plan was to placate my sister, as she kept accusing him of ogling me. Still, no apology from him. My mother's response hurt the most. She told me I was over-exaggerating and that I should be happy I passed my sister's test. She even said, "We can all move on now." I was in complete shock. How could she think things would go back to normal after this? I asked why she supported such delusional behavior, and she said it was because she loved my sister and wanted her to be happy. I asked if she loved me as much. She said yes, though it seemed hesitant, but I don't want to overthink it. I told her I wanted an apology for her part in the scheme. She refused, so I gave her the same condition I gave my sister and brother-in-law: until I get an apology, I won't be speaking to them. As a result, I'll probably have to go low contact with my brother and dad because they both live with my mother. I'll hang out with them outside the house and without my mother, but we'll see if she allows that. Some of you suggested spending time with my boyfriend's family during holidays and special occasions. I haven't met them yet since they live in the US, but after this situation, I've taken 2 weeks paid leave at the end of this month, and my boyfriend is taking me to meet them for the first time. I hope it goes well, as they may be the only family I have now. My therapy session has been moved to tomorrow because I requested an emergency appointment. Wish me luck. Anyway, I want to thank all the people who helped me see this situation for what it was. Your advice and compassion have been invaluable. I don't think I would have been able to get through this on my own. I likely would have caved and apologized, only for the same pattern to repeat itself. Truly, thank you so much. Wishing you all the best, and I hope you know that your advice may have just saved me from the need to always please others. I'll remember this moment whenever I feel like putting someone else's feelings above my own comfort. I hope your hearts are filled with love and happiness. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Never saw the original post until now, but wow. Good for you. I absolutely would not have anything to do with either of them until they recognized their behavior was unacceptable as well. Also, can't say I have very much faith in your sister's new marriage if she finds this acceptable. Regardless, glad you made a decision you're at peace with. Response. Thank you. It was a difficult decision. Our culture is centered around family, which is why we would get together as much as possible. It's going to be strange not seeing them as often, but my memories with them have been tainted by this horrible experience. Comment 2. I'm proud of you. You did the right thing, and I know it wasn't easy. I hope your trip to the US goes well. Another thing to think about is it's not bad if you don't have family get-togethers at holidays. You and your boyfriend are a family and you can build new traditions together. Response. Thank you. And I love the idea of creating new traditions with my boyfriend. Especially because we have lots of couple friends and I've always loved the idea of hosting a huge party with them all. Update 2. It's been 9 months since my last post. To be honest, there hasn't been much to update on regarding that particular situation. I am in contact with my mum now since the incident because she apologized. My sister and I still do not speak. From what I know, she is still married to my brother-in-law, and I think they're expecting, something I inferred from a family friend's Facebook post. I'm doing a lot better, though. I've become closer with my dad and brother throughout everything. My relationship with my mother is more strained now. I feel like I still can't trust her, even though she apologized. I don't think we will ever be as close as we were before my sister's schemes. My relationship is going really well too. He was asking about rings, so I'm thinking a proposal might be in my future. Also, his parents are just the best. They've sort of taken me in, and it's so cute how they dote on me like I'm their daughter. His whole family is incredibly supportive and uplifting. We're going to visit them again in July. I'm so excited to go back. I love it in the US. The weather is better, the people are nicer, and, of course, I get to see where my man grew up. I just feel so much lighter and happier now that I've put what my ex-brother-in-law and current brother-in-law have put me through behind me. I wish her the best with her pregnancy, but that's all I can do since she is still refusing to apologize. This probably wasn't the update you were looking for, but it's all I can give at this moment. Hope you're all having a wonderful day and a better summer than I'm having. Update 3. This is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to admit to myself. I wish it didn't have to come to this, but unfortunately, I think it's the only way I will ever get to live a normal life again. My sister has been telling our family members an entirely warped version of events. I only found out when I sent out save the dates. I got a call from an aunt telling me I was brave for inviting all these people after ruining my sister's life. I was so confused, so I asked her what she meant. She elaborated a little by saying that I was wrong for trying to seduce both my sister's husbands and that my fiancé was an idiot for supporting me. I laughed, out of astonishment, not amusement. First, I told her to watch what she said about my soon-to-be husband. He's been the only support I've had during this horrible moment in my life. Then, I told her what truly went down. She was shocked and didn't believe me. I told her she could easily go to my parents and brother to confirm it. Well, she informed me that my mother had already confirmed things for her. I was so pissed off. Words can't describe the anger I felt in that moment. It was like everything I had gone through in the past few years had all piled up, and I couldn't take it anymore. I just hung up the phone. I rang my mother, who had been begging for my forgiveness a few months ago. I told her I was done. She supported my delusional sister in her crazy schemes, and I forgave her. Out of the goodness of my heart, I chose to put that behind me so I wouldn't lose my mother. But she went behind my back and sided with my sister in front of our extended family. She made everyone think I was callous enough to seduce my own brothers-in-law. She allowed people to spread lies about her own daughter. I told her I never want to see or speak to her again. I called my brother and asked if he knew any of this had been happening. Thankfully, he didn't. Neither did my dad. I then wrote a letter to my sister. The details of the letter covered 4 main points. I was deeply sorry for everything she had been through. This did not mean I understood or forgave her actions, but I was apologetic for how things turned out. She needed to seek help for what my former brother-in-law put her through. I was stunned by the fact she thought she could lie about what happened to everyone and get away with it. She had truly lost the right to call herself my sister from that point on. I wished her the very best in life, but I never wanted to see or hear from her ever again. She has caused me far too much pain to the point that I'll never be able to forgive her. I will never speak to, reach out to, or even entertain the idea of reconciling with my mother or sister again. It is up to my father and brother whether they choose to associate with them, but for me, everything is too unfixable. The lies have stacked up so much that there isn't a pair of scissors sharp enough to cut through. My fiancé and I have decided that, with everything that has happened, we will just have a town hall wedding. Just a couple of witnesses, him and me. I'm so eternally grateful to have found him. He's my entire world, and without him here to talk me out of a breakdown, I might never have survived. Family is not always who you are born with, but those you meet along the way. I've been so incredibly lucky to have met some of the best people with whom I can start my own family. It is with great sadness that I make this final update. It is my own fault for believing in the best of people. To think that I would ever get an apology was so naive, but I think this may have been a blessing in disguise. At the very least, I'm choosing to see it that way. This chapter of my life is officially over, and I can now move on to better and brighter things. Thank you all for tuning into this portion of my life. Love you all, and I hope that you all have better luck with family members than I have. By the way, I know people are curious to know my ethnicity. I'm mixed race, my mother is Indian, and my father is English. I grew up and lived in England most of my life.